On February 24, the Russian Federation launched a broad military offensive against Ukraine. Since then, more than 1.25 million conflict-affected people have fled the country, sparking the largest humanitarian crisis Europe has seen since World War II. The situation in the country quickly deteriorated, with major attacks being reported across Ukraine. Included in the capital, Kiev, Russian troops quickly expanded their presence, with military clashes ongoing in major cities including Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Kherson, Mariupol, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Sumy, amongst others, while the pre-existing hostilities in Donetsk and Luhansk have significantly intensified. The humanitarian community is currently projecting around 6.7 million internally displaced persons within Ukraine, as well as a major flow of refugees and migrants towards neighboring countries, requiring humanitarian border management support, including in the field of health and shelter. The overall unpredictability of the situation requires humanitarian actors to respond to the needs of the most vulnerable, displaced, and other conflict-affected communities, and particularly female-headed households, children, persons with disabilities or chronic illnesses, as well as the elderly. The International Organization for Migration works to help ensure the orderly and humane management of migration, to promote international cooperation on migration issues, to assist in the search for practical solutions to migration problems, and to provide humanitarian assistance to migrants in need, including refugees and internally displaced people. Its headquarters are in Geneva, Switzerland. It was established in 1951. The IOM is part of the United Nations system as a related organization. The organization works in emergency situations, developing the resilience of all people on the move, and particularly those in situations of vulnerability, as well as building capacity within governments to manage all forms and impacts of mobility. The organization is guided by the principles established in the Charter of the United Nations, including upholding human rights for all, respect for the rights, dignity, and the well-being of migrants remains the most important thing. Thank you.
All interventions carried out through this appeal are in the line and complementary to current interagency humanitarian plans developed to respond to this crisis. As a member of the Interagency Standing Committee, International Organization for Migration will continue to work closely with partner agencies to ensure robust coordination during the implementation of all proposed activities, including United Nations agencies, international local organizations, civil society, and government counterparts in neighboring countries. In Ukraine, IOM is a member of the United Nations Country Team, the Humanitarian Country Team, and the United Nations Eastern Team. As such, International Organization for Migration actively participates in the Inter-Cluster Coordination Group. The different clusters, including shelter, food security and livelihoods, protection, health, water, sanitation, and hygiene, and the related technical working groups, including for cash, mental health, and psychosocial support. Beyond this, IOM participates in the strategic advisory groups of the shelter and the FSL clusters. At the regional level, IOM will continue to ensure close coordination with UNHCR, with the United Nations country teams, and relevant governments, including European Union counterparts, and as well as other humanitarian stakeholders. The International Organization for Migration is mobilizing teams and boosting capacity in Ukraine and neighboring countries to respond to the growing humanitarian needs of Ukrainians forced to flee the country, those internally displaced, and stranded third country nationals. The organization's number one priority is the safety and protection of all those fleeing the country, including third country nationals, and their ability to access assistance. It will also be crucial to screen for and assess potential short-term and longer-term vulnerabilities, including for human trafficking, child protection, health, mental health, and the arrival of more vulnerable people with special needs, including elderly, wounded, or sick people. The International Organization for Migration appealed for 350,000 million US dollars to support its operations in response to the humanitarian needs of people in Ukraine and those who have fled to the neighboring countries. The IOM is one of the largest humanitarian actors in Ukraine, has 7 offices inside the country, and has had permanent staff and office presence in all neighboring countries for decades. It aims to work closely with partner agencies to reach internally displaced persons, refugees, third country nationals, and the communities hosting them. The appeal's operative footprint targets affected populations in Ukraine, Moldova, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland. The organization will establish an effective coordination mechanism that facilitates communication between third country nationals, relevant consulates, and IOM, as well as appropriate referral mechanism with NGOs, governments, and partners to help up to 20,000 country nationals travel in a safe and orderly manner to their home countries.
The IOM will provide temporary shelter assistance to displaced people where shelter conditions are inadequate. The organization will also supply non-food items, including vital winterization assistance to ensure the dignified and sustainable living of unprotected individuals. The escalation of the violence in Ukraine has severely affected the water, sanitation and hygiene, WASH, infrastructure in the region. IOM plans to support conflict-affected populations through the rehabilitation of water supply systems and sanitation infrastructure, as well to distribute hygiene kits to displaced populations. The hostilities raise multiple protection concerns. In response, the IOM will provide individual protection assistance, which includes case management for specific needs and increased access to information such as hotlines for people on the move. The organization will also provide a comprehensive range of health services, inclusive of primary healthcare consultations, screening and management of communicable diseases, emergency reproductive, maternal, child, and neonatal healthcare, and referrals to specialized healthcare facilities to displaced and access-constrained populations. Additionally, the appeal budgets for the provision of food security assistance as well as the multi-purpose cash assistance in Ukraine, where IOM has an agreement with the National Post Office, which will allow for the rapid implementation of CVI and neighboring countries to ensure that displaced individuals meet their immediate basic needs. The IOM will support national governments and partners in transit by monitoring the delivery of and access to services and protection to affected populations, and the maintenance of infrastructure to ensure the safe travel of displaced individuals. The organization will also conduct need assessments, mobility tracking, and flow monitoring with the aim of providing estimates on the presence and numbers of affected population groups in the country to better understand and address the crisis. Thanks to the generosity of donors and partners, this appeal will enable IOM to address these humanitarian objectives and advocate for the human rights of conflict-affected individuals. IOM's programs in Ukraine are implemented through 4 field offices in the Eastern Conflict area, Kramatorsk and Severodonetsk in the government-controlled areas, and Donetsk and Luhansk in the non-government-controlled areas, 1 project office in Lviv in the western part of the country, and 1 project office in Kherson in the southern part. The overall management and supervision of project implementation is provided by IOM's country office in Kiev. The International Organization on Migration has an operational presence in all target countries, supported by multi-thematic expertise included at regional and headquarters level, as well as has pre-identified experts through rosters with a capacity to quickly respond and scale up operations. In addition to its headquarters, IOM's regional offices in Brussels and Vienna will provide technical support for implementation and liaison with host governments and partners to ensure coordinated implementation at all levels, both within Ukraine and in the neighboring countries, building on its global capacity in migration and displacement data collection and analysis. IOM will also provide regular updates on regional mobility dynamics to key stakeholders in order to inform planning and implementation processes.
In the next part, we will talk about the discrimination and the racism against third country nationals fleeing Ukraine. IOM welcomes the decision by the Council of the European Union to offer temporary protection to those fleeing Ukraine and reiterates IOM's readiness to support with implementing the directive. We hope to see a broad application that covers everyone in need. Men, women, and children, including migrant workers and students living in Ukraine, are facing acute challenges as they attempt to leave conflict-affected areas, cross borders into neighboring countries, and seek life-saving assistance. More than 78,830 country nationals have crossed into neighboring countries. We have credible and verified information from partners, and humanitarians represent on borders with neighboring countries have documented discrimination against several third country nationals arriving in neighboring countries. They have also documented acts of xenophobia based on people's race, ethnicity, and nationality. We have also seen the overwhelming testimonials shared in media from people who have been subject to discrimination. Third country nationals reported having faced discrimination on their journey. States need to investigate and act immediately to ensure that everyone fleeing the conflict is treated humanely and provided access to territory and protection. We have been contacted by dozens of countries seeking IOM's assistance in returning their citizens. Last week, we launched information hotlines in Ukraine, Poland, Romania, Lithuania, and Slovakia to provide key information to the people on the move. Antonio Vitorino, IOM Director General, stated, "Discrimination on the basis of race, ethnicity, nationality, or migration status is unacceptable. Protection and assistance must be provided in a non-discriminatory and culturally appropriate manner to all conflict-affected people." This is all for our today's news. Thank you for listening. Also, if you are interested in international events, you are welcome to subscribe our channel. See you in the next video. Have a nice day.